Lion is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Gates open now, they're away. Stride for stride, they go to the line. Desert Lightning. Gates open now, they're off. She's all over the place, Equicade, but don't worry, she knows where the winning post is. Equicade's bolted in the Avondale Cup.
Welcome to Weigh In. Great to have your company this morning. We've got stakes racing to review from Pukekohe and also an important meeting from Invercargill to look back on as well. I'm going to be doing all of that with my co-host in Michael Guerin. Michael, a very warm welcome to you. Looking forward to getting into, in the early part of the show, those race reviews and then some important stuff at the end of the show.
Yes, some really important stuff. Welcome back from Melbourne. We'll hear more about that later on. Big hi to everybody around the country or our friends in Australia. So, getting to the pointy end of the season in Group 1's the next 4 Saturdays in New Zealand. It's the only time of the year we have that. And so much out of Pukekohe makes you think, well, what happens with the Derby and the Cup? I think we maybe got a few answers. We'll find out more because we had our cameraman Ben on track. But more importantly than that, everybody knows what's been going on in the country. Sitting in Auckland last week, we had some effects of Cyclone Gabrielle, and it was like, well, that wasn't so bad, but we didn't know what was going on down country, and we feel for everybody, particularly on the East Coast. Racing's really come to the party with that, and we'll talk about that a lot on the show today, but particularly in the third segment, because there's a way you can help, there's a way other people have started to help, and of course racing's part of the community, and that's part of our lives. So important things going on around the country, important racing as well, which is hopefully a distraction. We'll touch on both today as we look forward, but you stick around for segment 3 because I think it's a chance for racing, which is already doing some stuff, to do some more to help some of our compatriots and even some of the people who come from overseas to work in that region of the country who are going through a really tough time.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing more about that later on in our show. Let's talk about race reviews now. And the first race that we take a little look at is the Avondale Guineas, which is of course won by Desert Lightning.
Of sincerity, getting away from the rail, Warsaw. Now the favourite Waipa, he's poised to pounce out deeper with that Phantom Dragon, devilled him down the outside, further back Andalus, and then came hitting the rest, devilled him as they get to this Desert Lightning out wide, who's ranged up on the outside at the 250. Desert Lightning, Waipa comes with it, the 2 favourites draw clear, battling on, full of sincerity, and then through on the inside, Warsaw late. It's Desert Lightning and Waipa, stride for stride, they go to the line, Desert Lightning's beaten Waipa in the Avondale Guineas. Great race.
Under you, Peter, and you must be really happy with how things have panned out here today with this horse.
Yeah, no, everything went well. I was really pleased, and when Waipa had the better run and come into it, my horse was just starting to nurse into it very well. So, and I don't want to be hurtful or anything, but I was quite pleased to beat Waipa.
That's right, yes. A horse that was formerly in your barn. You've got the right man in Vinnie Colgan aboard too as you look towards the Derby as well. He's a man who's ridden a number of Derby winners.
Yeah, no, I've stuck with Vinnie all the way through. He's, I was just wrapped to win that race today.
It sets it up nicely, doesn't it, Peter? It really does.
It's a long way to go yet, but we're halfway there.
Yeah, look, he's a beaut, this horse. I mean, his run here in the Cracker Million was super. He nearly won the 2,000 guineas. He's had a great campaign.
I don't know, but the media just don't seem to go for him. I don't know why, but he's got the best form in the race. If you have a look at his stats, you know, he's run some fast times home. He's just got beaten the Guineas. Great run in the Cracker Millions the other day. You know, everything's. He's a good horse, but people just don't give him credit for it, you know.
Well, Vin, he needed to be good because it was a good horse you had to grind your way past.
Absolutely. Look, Waipa gave me a good fight in the finish. He has a fight with the definitely.
Everybody asks this question after you've won the Avondale Guineas. Will he run 2,400 metres in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, look, it was a big test today. First time mile quarter. And look, they went slow and he relaxed, beautiful. So I guess he's ticked that box, and he pulled up quite long at 1,000 metres after the race. So I don't think 2,400 would be too much of a worry.
Mate, the last couple of years have had their challenges for you. How's the body feeling heading into Derby week, one of the weeks you love the most in the year?
Oh, look, I've had my problems over the last 5 years, but at the moment, it's pretty 100% at the moment.
Remind our viewers at home, how many derbies have you won at Ellerslie, which this year becomes Te Rapa?
Yeah, absolutely. I've won 6, but I'm sure 7 rolls better off the tongue. So, yeah, I've been fighting for it for a few years now, so hopefully I get there before I retire.
Yeah, Vinnie Colgan is the Derby king, isn't he? And he'll be looking out for a 7th when it comes to Desert Lightning. And Michael, I think I sort of value what Peter's saying about people underestimating Desert Lightning. He's really good, really consistent. This is a great form race when it comes to the Derby. He has to be respected.
He does. Well, what happens with the media and even the show, you tend to talk about the winner because that deserves the interview for the trainer in his case, or the jockey. And you can run seconds and thirds in really big races and not get a lot of coverage because no one writes stories about who ran second or third. But he's stepped up and won here, admittedly away from Pierre, away from Prowess, away from horses who have beaten him before. But Waitak's a good horse. When you watch this, there's 2 groups in this race. There's obviously Waitak in the yellow colours and outside him Desert Lightning who beats him in the orange. So these 2 are clear class horses and they're 3rd and 4th in the Derby market because of that. When you go further back, a horse like Warsaw down on the inside, still very inexperienced, he's done a really good job and he's bred to get the Derby distance. Full of Sincerity the same, Devil Dom really good, Andalus off the clock almost as quick as the winner over the last 600. But I think for punters, they've got to watch that and they go, first 2 are pretty good, they might be Derby winning chances, but they put such a gap on the other horses, it's really hard to make a suggestion that the horses who finish behind them could win the Derby because not only do they need to improve 3 lengths, which they might do with an extra 300 metres, but they need to improve more lengths to catch Prowess and Sharp and Smart. So Waitak I thought was okay, but the Avondale Guineas has been a huge pointer to the Derby, but there's those 2 huge totem poles at the top of the market which dominate everything, that if you didn't run top 2 in the Avondale Guineas this year, gee, it's a stretch to say you're going to improve 5 lengths to win the Derby.
Yeah, I think the 2,400 metres trips a lot of horses up, so you don't necessarily have to improve. You've just got to be the best stayer. And we've sort of seen that in recent years, haven't we? That it's not necessarily the most brilliant horse. I'm thinking Le Creek off the top of my mind. It's the horse that stays, the dower, the best stayer in a high-pressure race.
I agree with you with that because we've seen examples over recent years like Dragon Leap, who won the Avondale Guineas, and you thought, well, it'll win the Derby, and it didn't. But the problem is the horse who is favourite for the Derby will run the distance.
Exactly,
and he'll run
that's
it.
The difference.
So Desert Lightning came home in 33.2 on Saturday, off quite a slow tempo. Sharp and Smart came home in relatively the same sectionals last week at Te Rapa, 3 wide against good horses. So that's why the market's shaped like this. There's no surprise in this market. The top 2 completely dominate. Then Desert Lightning comes into play, as does Waitak. And I actually think Mark Twain's a little bit too short compared with the others because that next group of horses, it's hard to make a case they can win, with the exception of Loose Spender. Now, Loose Spender was really good winning the Waikato Guineas. No pot on him because he didn't go around on Saturday. Spoke to Ben Foote, he had a temperature. They are hoping to get him to the Derby, but it's less than ideal. And the other horse who missed Saturday was Dynastic. He rolled badly in the box overnight, and they are hoping to potentially race him this Saturday at Matamata and also go to the Derby, which adds extra depth. But again, we're not telling the punters anything they don't know. They saw Te Rapa last week. They know how hard it is. Maybe Sharp and Smart can be unlucky, and maybe Prowess can be unlucky, but I don't think they're both going to be unlucky.
No, and there was a nice form reference with Sharp and Smart. Elliptical came out and won the CS Hayes on Saturday at Flemington, of course, had form around Sharp and Smart. So another reference, another plus when it comes to your Derby favourite. Let's hear from the beaten jockey Warren Kennedy. He finished 2nd aboard Waitak.
Well, Warren, you picked up a catch ride on Waitak, and he seemed a better behaved version of Waitak today.
Yeah, absolutely. The guys have done a really good work at him at home. You know, it's the first time I sat on him today, but he did everything really right. He gave a good parade down to the start. Was nice and relaxed behind there. In the running, settled beautifully and had it all his own way really today. He had every chance.
Okay. Is he a Derby horse for 2 weeks' time?
Look, it's possible for him. You know, he's a horse that I feel will want to be covered for as long as possible. He's got quite a nice burst, but it is a short one. Unfortunately today, the way the track was running, we couldn't allow that to happen. The horses in front were steadying on us, and I had to make a move on him. He got challenged and he fought all the way down. You know, only the last couple of tries did he really give it up. But very courageous run. But if he settles in the Derby, which I'm sure he will do based on today's run, and he's able to follow horses through and pounce late, it's contender.
Just away from Waipa, Warren Kennedy's getting to see a bit of New Zealand. We see your name turning up at different sorts of tracks. Do you sometimes wonder where you are?
Absolutely. Most of the time I've got to use my GPS to find out where I am. I've got to find my way back home too. But yeah, I've seen a lot of the country, North Island. I haven't been to South Island yet. But yeah, beautiful. Unfortunate with all the events that's been happening. But well wishes and thoughts with everyone that's been impacted by that. It's really sad. But beautiful country. I've seen most of it, I think. But yeah, really enjoying it.
Warren Kennedy there giving us his insight from Waipa, who finished second in the Avondale Guineas. Well, speaking of Warren Kennedy, let's have a little look at the Avondale Cup, which is of course won by Aquacade.
Well back is Hini Pata with it Super Sid and Lincoln King. Homeward bound in the Cup, 500 metres to go. And the leader is You'll Do, tackled on the inside by Soldier Boy. Z-Force, Aquacade has joined them very quickly out in the centre, and she burst to the lead. Aquacade by 2.5. Roger, that's battling away. Out wider then, we've got Hinipata making up good ground down the outside. Aquacade, she's starting to wobble. She's 3 lengths in front, coming after Hinipata. She's all over the place, Aquacade, but don't worry, she knows where the winning post is. Aquacade bolted in the Avondale Cup. Second over was Hinipata.
Wow. Every time, Lance, she goes to the races at the moment, she looks better.
Yeah, look, she progressed through the season. After her win at Tauranga, you know, it was sort of a little bit unexpected. I thought she was a bit vulnerable that day, and she won well. And I didn't like to say it, but you know, she'd improved since. Her coat had come out even more, so she was just in that right. She's in that right frame at the moment, where she's just in the zone, and her coat's good. She's holding condition, and she's loving what she's doing.
The unanswerable question, will she cop 2 miles in 3 weeks?
Oh, I think she'll give herself every chance to, yeah. I think on the breeding side she will. She relaxes, she can use her speed, then she goes to sleep. She goes for a bit of a flat patch in her races and then picks up again. So I think she'll give herself every opportunity to.
Things are going well at the moment. Do you feel like the team's just in a nice zone, because you seem to be lining up most Saturdays, and the horses, if they're not winning, they're performing up to their maximum?
Yeah, well, that's what we're really focusing on increasing the quality of the horses in the stable, targeting race days, understanding that you have to start off in the primers, but aiming for Saturday good feature meetings, and that's where the group races are. And for a breeding operation like Cambridge Stud, that's what's important. You
mentioned a breeding operation. You can't mention broodmares without mentioning Australia these days. Have you given any conversation, any thought to, if she goes well in the Barfoot and Thompson Auckland Cup, they have a Sydney Cup not too long after that?
Yeah, we did nominate her for the Sydney Cup. So look, we want to be careful we don't overtax this prep. She's come a long way very quickly, but if she came through the Auckland Cup well and we were happy, we won't be afraid to take her to Australia.
She must be a treat to ride, and you found that right spot, I'm sure, after 400 metres in this race to be able to get her one off the rail.
Yeah, all worked out like a dream. You know, she was actually magnificent today. I must give credit to Lance Noble. She looked fantastic. She felt fantastic, and she helped me in the race. You know, from that draw, it's not easy to get across, but I just asked her for a little bit of effort, and she got me. She found the right spot, and we were able to put there. And straight away, she just relaxed with me, and she just knew what she was doing. Very professional. And she turned it on going through the 600 when I picked it up. I said, I'm going to set her out and let's see what she's got. She's going for the 3-2 later on. And she powered home really strong. A great win.
Yeah, Lance always spoke about that flat spot she has too. She has that little spot in the run where you sort of asked her to give a little bit more, and that's when you produced to bring her into the home bend, and boy, she surged away from that point. Yeah,
she was nice and relaxed all the way around. But if you have a look at the video, going through about the 1,000, she actually looks to drop back a bit. She hits that flat spot, and I allowed her to just do it. You know, I didn't want to settle out from that early on, but going through the 600 when I asked her to start picking it up, gee, she turned it on, and she really quickened at the top of the straight and put them to bed right there.
Now bring on the Auckland Cup over 3,200 metres.
Oh, yeah, 100%, bring it.
Oh, great stuff. And she was really impressive, wasn't she? Aquacade powered home to take out the Avondale Cup. From an Auckland Cup perspective, Michael, seems cut and dry, doesn't it? She's classy. The way she put them away, she seems like she's going to be very hard to beat.
Well, it gets worse. She's got 53 kilos in the Auckland Cup. It's set weights and penalties, and you couldn't be penalised for that. So she comes out and spanks them. She could have won by 5. And she goes down in the weights.
Yeah.
Now, some of the others do too. So she's relatively at the same place in the weights against Dionysus, but 53 is so light, and it's been such a great weight for horses in cup races in New Zealand recently. She obviously could have won by more. I thought she shut off a little bit. Obviously they're not going to put blinkers on her because she's stepping up to 3-2, but she'll also be able to lob along, enjoy herself. On her dam side, her dam's by See the Stars, so there's really stout European blood there. Hinny Para was good, as was Lincoln King, who we know will run the 2 miles. And I know you were impressed by Dionysus just keeping going at the same speed, and therefore he'll obviously cop the 2 miles because he did in the Wellington Cup.
Yeah, I guess that just for those horses that have had a run over the 2 miles this preparation, they're going to be so much more dour than a horse like Aquacade, who's been racing over the 2,000 metres. So I'd say that Roger James Wellwood camp will be really comfortable with where Dionysus is at. That's a maintenance run. They know Dionysus gets the distance. So Aquacade's so brilliant. I just wonder if the 3-2's maybe not her realm in the future. She's perhaps could sort of consider some other options, but it's going to be really interesting to see. Is she so brilliant that she just is able to put them to bed? You
would think she could probably, not that she's going to, but she could turn up in a Zabeel Classic and be competitive. Yeah. There's no doubts about that, or a Bone Crusher, which is on the same day. The problem now is you absolutely can't take $2.20. No cup winners in New Zealand pay $2.20. So the tab is saying, we don't want your money, go away, come back a few days out from the race. Ladies Man is going to join that bunch. Rapid Falls we'll see a little bit later on. When you look at that, it's actually a very informed page. When you go down through that page, often with the stayers, you're like, oh, well, this will cop the 2 miles, but it's an old hacker. That's actually a good page.
Yeah.
It's a good page full of horses who predominantly are in form. I think we have a really cool Auckland Cup coming up, but at the moment you can't back Aquacade, and I don't want to back against it. Not at 53 kilos.
No, she's going to be really hard to beat and just seems so in form. And when those mares do get in form, they can be very hard to get past. We're going to talk about Brendan and Joe Lindsay and Warren Kennedy a little bit later on. But for now, let's have a look at another winner on the programme. That was off the first of the day. Crescetti was pretty impressive when taking out race number 1.
Hero. Further out then, Mazzucato looking for space. Over on the inside, he reigns. Further back in the field, Petanata. Then came Rip Roar and wider out Mackenzie and Tranquilise. Down to the 250 they come. It's Crescetti, the one to catch. Led by a length and a half. Coming after it, there goes My Hero. Running on out wide, Mazzucato, and then followed, getting out late, Rip Roar. But it's Crescetti. Crescetti in front. And Crescetti's going to lead all the way in the first. It's a very nice debut win. Crescetti bolted.
Well, a horse you probably didn't know too much about, Sam. Impressive horse.
Yeah, it was really nice run. Watched its trial once I found out I was on it, and it won really impressively at Avondale. Had a couple of jump outs at Pookie, and so now I was excited to be on it.
Also exciting must be next week you're heading to Saudi Arabia, which is not a sentence you say to many New Zealand people. I don't think I know anybody who's been there, and how much do you possibly know about it?
Not really a huge amount. I mean, everyone sort of says a lot of things and it sounds like almost like a scary place to go, but I'm sure it's not that bad. But I think there's a few rules, but I've always been a bit of a rule breaker, so...
That is one thing. People do think that there are rules around being a female in Saudi Arabia, and we're not going to get into the politics of that, but of course they've invited at least 2 females to the Riders' Championships over there, so nice to be invited, and I suppose you'll find out when you get there if there's anything you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, I think they'll probably give us a little bit of a rundown, but I think they are trying to, you know, westernise themselves a little bit more, because I think they're trying to hold the Soccer World Cup and that even over there, so I think they're trying to show that they're, you know, versatile, but, and that's why I guess doing things like this is, you know, showing it a little bit, but, yeah, no, it's going to be interesting, because I think the females over there traditionally don't talk, so everyone's like, they chop hands off, they'll have to sew your mouth up.
They might have picked the wrong girl for that. That away from the fact it's an unusual country for many people to visit, riding against Joe Maria and Frankie Dettori, that must be something pretty special.
Yeah, no, it will be very cool. Yeah, I got the chance actually to ride against Frankie when I was over in England and rode a little bit over there, and you know it was pretty cool. And so no, it's definitely going to be different, and not only them, but you know different riders from all around the world. They've got all different riding styles, so it's yeah, it's going to be a bunch of literature, all sorts. That's for sure.
Is it a case when you're at your level of experience, you go there and take it for what it is, or do you this week try and study the track or try and find out some more? Because I don't imagine there's that many people you can go to ask about racing in Saudi Arabia, Sam.
No, there isn't a huge amount of people, and they don't really even televise it a huge amount, so you can't even really... I've YouTubed a few races just to have a little bit of a look, but you've sort of got to just take it as an experience. And I mean, you don't even really know what I'm riding till you get there, so can't do too much for them, don't even know what I'm on. But the races I did watch on the dirt, it was a lot like American racing. They literally sit about 10 wide and pretty much 2 right, and they just go. So yeah, sure I can do that.
Let's talk about your career. You've obviously won a whole stack of races. It's been a wonderful career. It's still going. I know a couple of seasons ago you thought about maybe giving it up. You seem to be enjoying it at the moment.
Yeah, well, it was when I broke both my ankles last summer, I briefly thought about not returning. I was doing a bit of work for SEN Radio and was really enjoying that. And so you know, they offered me sort of more of a permanent slot, and I was all but signed on the dotted line. But then actually Steve McKee sort of pulled me inside and said, come on, he's like, you're not that old yet. Yeah, I thought I'd give it another go. And actually at the time I got asked to do a trip to Spain, but because it was around COVID time, they ended up having to postpone that, which I thought was going to be April, but I'm not sure what's happened with that one. And so I thought, oh, well, I've got the chance to do it. It's a good way to finish your career off, that's for sure.
Okay, good luck in Saudi Arabia. We hope you ride a winner, and we hope you don't offend anybody.
I just won't talk or do anything.
Oh, best of luck to Sam Spratt. So she's a character of the Jockey's Room, and we'll be following with interest as she takes on the big guns in Saudi Arabia, and no doubt we'll have a great time over there. Another race to touch on here coming in from Pukekohe was race number 3, and it's those colours of Brendan and Joe Lindsay and Cambridge stud Warren Kennedy doing the riding aboard Funny Girl.
One more time, followed by Just a Canter and Synchronise at the tail of the field as they pack up a little, turning in now. 500 metres to go. Funny Girl and Packing Rockstar, the 2 leaders. Al Vencedor eyes the rail run now, and now it's about a length away, coming out after this leader. Out wide, Cool Change has joined them quickly. Now Synchronise getting out into the clear as well at the 200 metres. It's still Funny Girl in front here. Al Vencedor trying hard here. Synchronise down the outside, but Funny Girl with a kick. Funny Girl is holding them in the run to the line, and Funny Girl will lead all the way. Second over, we've got Al Vencedor in a photo with Cool Change and Synchronise.
Funny Girl putting them to bed in the open handicap over the 1,200 metres, and quite a formidable combination at the moment is Warren Kennedy, Lance Noble. The team's flying, and it capped off a really good day for Brendan and Joe Lindsay.
Yeah, it did. We'll talk more about them later on, but of course, when you buy something as big and as storied as Cambridge Stud, you're on a hiding to nothing, because you are taking over from the late, great Sir Patrick Hogan, and you can only make mistakes, and you don't have his broodmare band to go on with, and it's really tricky. And Brendan and Joe have been meticulous about getting these really good fillies and mares, and she's another one. Lance Noble telling me she's all but done. She'll be ready to go to the broodmare paddock next season, and she's black type. She'll add to that broodmare band, and you see so many horses. Let's Be Glam, a better version of her.
Ex-leader,
exactly.
One Place.
Well, Let's Be Glam's been retired as well, so she'll go to the paddock. So at Cambridge Stud now, you're just seeing this growth of the broodmare paddocks being refilled. You know, and they've had to do it the hard way, and it costs a lot of money. And then when you see Aquacade is also going to join that party, and obviously Probably was there.
Mouth-watering.
It's actually quite incredible. When you say all those names together, as you mentioned, ex-leader, and you say all those names, you're like, wow, that's a lot of firepower. And it comes with work, and some of them aren't those big ticket items you're buying at the sales in Australia. Some of them are like Polygon, who is a highly recommended, who's a homebred, who is going to Sydney, going to Kembla Grange, and then going to Sydney for the Vinery, and she'll come back, and she's black type. So they're going to have an incredibly imposing broodmare band, which is important because Waikato stud have one. And you need another stud at least at that level to make it a fair fight and to give us that strength in the industry and that cross-fertilisation between the two, so you can have different stallions going to different mares, and otherwise you have what you had in England for a while, which was Godolphin and Coolmore not buying with each other and going down their separate paths. And they've stopped doing that. They've started to cross-fertilise now. And Cambridge are the other brick to that Waikato stud other side. So what they're achieving, and we'll talk more about Brendan and Joe again later on, is not only remarkable, but it's happened really quickly.
Yeah, it has. And best of luck to them heading forward to some of those big feature races upcoming. We head down to Invercargill now, where we had a couple of key races we want to have a little look at. And the first of those, the Cyclone Guineas, was a muddling run event. Press Chargers coming out on top.
He's coming across their heels, pulling to the centre of the track, and here he comes, moving out to Press Chargers and Chibano between them. Press Chargers digging in. Specialty hasn't got him yet, then Chibano. Tough time, Wider Goldie's chance. Press Chargers, Specialty digging in, but Press Chargers in front. Lisa Allpress takes the Guineas. Press Chargers will score to beat Specialty. Third tough time.
What you probably don't get to see in that replay was Specialty having to cross the rest of the field, working really hard to get into the leading position, and then Press Chargers coming up to sort of challenge Specialty mid-race. And those two stuck on really gamely, I thought, with Press Chargers just doing the best of them.
I thought the winner, I agree, Specialty was good, but I thought the winner was really good. Only second start. It was trained in the north by Ben Foote. They sent it south to get some black type or a couple of wins. And comes out and wins a $100,000 race. And I thought Lisa Allpress did a great job. The young lady who actually helped win that race is someone whose name you won't know, but I'm going to tell you about her. Her name is Ruby Ray. Now, she is the niece of Terry Ray. She's Donna, Terry's sister's daughter. Ruby rides track work for Terry, and Terry said this is her win. She's done so much of the work with this horse. She's got him going well. Now, Ruby 2 weeks ago was in a car accident, and she's given herself a pretty good hiding. Unfortunately, she's had some pretty serious injuries. She's had some operations. She's okay now. She's in hospital. Ruby, get better soon. She was in hospital making a bunch of noise during that race because her and a friend were watching it on the phone, and the nurse came and told them off, Emily. So hopefully, Ruby, you get out of hospital soon so you can watch the races and not be told off. But I think it's really important. We have so many wonderful, skilled track work riders around the country, and I don't know most of them. You know some of them, but you used to be one. And we talk about the Opies and the Warren Kennedys and the Nabbers all the time, but these people do really hard graft for not a lot of money. And there's a lot of Ruby Rays around this country who keep the industry going. So she's going for a tough time. If you know her on social media, I obviously don't. I've met her before over at Greymouth because she's a Greymouth girl. Drop her a note, tell her you're thinking of her, but we hope she gets better. And this win is for Ruby, as are many of the wins we show on Way and Emily for people whose names we don't get to talk about. But I hope she gets better soon, and I'm sure the nurse had no idea what was going on.
Oh, great stuff, Michael. Awesome. And best of luck for your recovery, Ruby, and thinking of you here on Way In. Invercargill Gold Cup, race number 7, Dunhill was the winner of this one.
Tough here on the inside of Lily of the Valley. Around them now, Dunhill is chiming in with a really good run. He's moved up and taken the lead from Lily of the Valley. Waterby and Paraspector, third exchange, are now running on. Extreme Miss, but Dunhill has taken the lead for Jasmine Fawcett, drawing away, and is going to be really emphatic on the line. Dunhill bolted in, won it by 5 lengths on Lily of the Valley. Extreme Miss got up and ran third.
One of 3 winners on the programme for Jasmine Fawcett, who we'll touch on shortly. But, geez, I like the effort of Dunhill. Over the 2,600 metres, Michael, attacked the line. What you don't see is what it's able to do after the line. I think Jasmine struggled to pull the horse up. Looked like it could have gone another lap.
Well, that's comforting because you think to yourself, if I can do that over 26, I've got a New Zealand Cup horse or a Wellington Cup horse, or you could say a Brisbane Cup horse, but of course they've tried Queensland with the horse. The Tylers took quite a few horses to Queensland. The whole campaign didn't work out. It just got messy with wet tracks, and it's just hard to win races over there. So this horse had a lot of outs. I think it's got a future in those distance races in New Zealand. Sadly, we don't have that many of them. And obviously, once you start winning them, you get up in the handicaps really quickly. You mentioned Jasmine Fawcett. What a run she's having.
Unbelievable.
So she's up to 35 wins for the season. So here's the premiership. We'll concentrate on her first. She's up to 35 wins for the season, 2 black type. Now, Jasmine's best is 51, but that was when she was in her second year in 2018, and she was riding with a claim. No claim now, and this is a fair fight. She's having to race against all the other senior jockeys. I would say, hopefully, she stays healthy and happy and she gets a new personal best season. And that confidence you're getting from riding horses in the South Island and being a senior rider there, really good for her. Talking about senior riders, Michael McNabb has gone crazy in the last 2 weeks. I think he's ridden like 20 winners in 2 weeks.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
And he's dialed in. You see him at the races with the zinc on, and he's just dialed in. He wants it. Really hard for Craig Grills to catch him now, excuse me, unless Nabba has a holiday. And then Opie, who's having a great season, as you well know. Lisa Rawpress doing great things, and Kelsey Hannon's been one of the stories of the season. Also has so too has been Taylor Mitchell, and next week on the show we'll have a profile on Taylor, getting to know some of the jockeys we don't know quite so well. But this week our highlight jockey is Jasmine Fawcett. I think she'll have a PB season.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff, and well done to you, Jasmine, killing it down south with your winners, and long may that continue. Waipa Cup was another race that we wanted to highlight here on Weigh-In. It was the Waipa Cup taken up by Michael McNabb and Tony Pike, and there's a pretty special story with regards to their winnings, which we'll touch on after the replay.
Here from Opawa Jack on the inside. Now Rapid Falls coming out and after them with La Florabelle. It is still Bully Boy in front halfway down. A length on a brave Opawa Jack. Rapid Falls River Run starting to close off really well. Bully Boy's just in front here. Rapid Falls is lunging and got him on the line. Rapid Falls gets there for Michael McNabb right on the line from Bully Boy, then either Opawa.
We just spoke about Michael McNabb riding so many winners, and there's another one, Waipa Cup success for him and Tony Pike. And Michael, this sort of starts a little bit of a theme we're going to have throughout the latter part of the show with regards to Cyclone Gabrielle and the work that's being done around donations. And Michael and Tony very kindly donated their winnings after this win to the relief fund. Obviously, Waipa, an incredibly badly affected area, and real testament to their support.
Yeah, so that's about $2,000 worth of money from those guys, and they're both Hawke's Bay boys, and they would obviously really feel what's going on there. So they did that on Friday, and since then there's been a lot of other work around racing, people saying, how can we help our friends predominantly on the East Coast? But to Nabba, who's riding so well, to Pikey, who potentially has an Auckland Cup horse there, good on them, because they got out in front of this and they wanted to do the right thing. They did do the right thing, and a lot more racing people are doing the right thing. So stick around for segment 3 where you can see how you can be involved in that.
Well, segment 2 is what we've got coming up next, and we get off to Australia on the back of this break. Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors. The Group 1 Lightning was the highlight of the programme at Flemington on Saturday. It was taken out by a 1,000 metre specialist in Coolangatta.
450 metres to go. Nature Strip drives up on the inside to match Marabi. They're a length and a half. September Run, Coolangatta. Then came Bella Nipotina, and further back in the field, Mullane. It's Nature Strip trying to kick. Coolangatta's getting close, and September Run back on the inside at the 150. September Run drives through, and Coolangatta, then Bella Nipotina. Coolangatta in the centre lifts. Coolangatta in front of Bella Nipotina. I Wish I Win late. Coolangatta announces herself and wins it from I Wish I Win. Bella Nipotina. September Run, then Buena Noches, next Nature Strip, Bowler, Marabi.
Coolangatta getting the victory in the Black Caviar Lightning. There was a lot of talk on track about the fact that Nature Strip was vulnerable on Saturday, just based around, I think people had doubts about that last preparation, but he was giving a lot of weight to Coolangatta, and she's that 1,000 metre specialist, and she was able to deliver for Kira Maher and David Eustace, who had 3 in the race, Michael. But I think from a Kiwi perspective, the talking point early in the day was around the scratching of Rockin' Horse, and then of course that story developed into I Wish I Win, who was unbelievable. To have 1,000 metres, I just blew my mind. I couldn't believe what he was able to do.
The overhead footage of I Wish I Win is really dramatic. Like, he just was so far off Coolangatta, and to get that close in the sectionals, breaking 32 for the last 600 is really dramatic stuff. Just go through them. Coolangatta won't be going to the Newmarket, that's 1200. They might freshen her up and go to Ascot, where they can race over 1,000 down the straight on the
team
first
are
day.
really keen to do that.
Of course they are. Being for the English blood there with David Eustace. What a real buzz for Jamie Carr. She'll probably get the ride to go over there. Although James might be going as well. So it gets really interesting because Anima will be going potentially. So she was great. I Wish a Win was awesome. And for people looking at that and going, well, he can't get beat next start. Of course, he goes to the Newmarket and Imperatrice, who has raced I Wish a Win before, they'll be there waiting for each other. And it's sort of hard to believe when you see I Wish a Win do that. You go, is that the same horse? Is that
I know.
the same horse we had here last year? Because obviously it is. But you never would have thought he would be a 1,000-metre horse.
No. Peter Moody's sort of indicated that, because a lot of the questioning was around, will he go to the All-Star Mile? And they've pretty much, from what I understand, said no. They believe he's a sprinter and that's what they want to do. They felt the All-Star Mile was going to come up, they'd have to rush to get to the All-Star Mile, and they wanted to keep him to the sprinting distances. Look,
well,
how
it's only 2 weeks after
was.
the Newmarket, isn't it? So it doesn't give you a lot of time to go from 12 to 16. So Imperatrice taking on I Wish a Win's going to have huge New Zealand interest. And as you mentioned, Rock and Horse missed that race. So obviously
Oakley
it was
Plate potentially for Rock and Horse this weekend, and then maybe to the Newmarket.
Gee, that's busy, isn't it?
Yeah, a shame for her, because I think they were so happy with where she was at, but she just got some cellulitis in her hind legs, so obviously they've had to treat that, and that's resulted in her scratching.
You were there on track. What do you make of Nature Strip? Is he no longer the best sprinter in Australia or the world or whatever?
I think it's really hard to say. Chris and James was not cagey, but they sort of said, don't worry, he's okay, he'll be back. But there's certainly the feeling around, the industry as a whole is that he's not...
Was the track quite firm?
Track was firm, it always is at Flemington, yes.
Okay.
And he had to give a lot of weight to Coolangatta.
Do you think it's a factor as he gets older?
Potentially, absolutely.
Maybe in a TJ on a wetter track, maybe at home he'll just feel happier.
You can't say that he was out of form last prep. He got beaten ahead in
a Group 1,
in the Everest, and then of course he went and was really good in Flemington.
My suspicions with him started when I started talking to James and Chris and the boys and Charlie and saying, oh, you're going to go back to Ascot? They were like, And I thought if he was flying and bullish and just felt like he was just eating the house down, maybe they would want to go back, because the trips are paid for. You get paid to go to Ascot. And when they weren't jumping up and down about that thought process, I was like, oh, okay. And Saturday did nothing to disprove that to me. He's been beaten lots of times, Nature Strip, but he's very rarely been beaten into fifth. Very rare he just pops like that. And as mentioned, there's good horses like Rock and Horse, who's beaten him before, and Imperatrice to join that fray. Do you have any update? Is Opie going to ride Imperatrice? Do we know this yet?
I think he is going to ride Imperatrice, but I'm not sure if that's been confirmed.
Do you book the flights?
Can I go? I'll wait for that to be officially confirmed, but from what I understand.
Well, that's pretty exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Obviously, you've discussed it with him. I presume you talked to your husband. What did he mention about I Wish a Win Imperatrice, how this all works together?
He's feeling really comfortable with where Imperatrice is at. She's in career best form, so I think he's feeling pretty bullish.
Cool.
It's exciting stuff.
So that's for you.
Yeah, it is. A couple of other Kiwi winners on that card on Saturday at Flemington, and one of those was Anna Visto. By Reliable Man, this mare was really strong to be able to get up and score in the Tony Burke Memorial.
Next in the field, Cirileo Miss and Elusive Express to the outside. Anna Visto looking to go back to back. Had a kick at the 300 metres. Led by about 2 lengths. Wrote to Arataki, who may have run her race. A Gap Vespertine, Elusive Express and Exalita from a long way back. But it's all Anna Visto. 100 metres to go. 3 or 4 lengths in front of Wrote to Arataki. And Anna Visto trots in. Won it in grand style. Wrote to Arataki second. Exalita third from Vespertine.
Wrote to Arataki, another Kiwi bred, put Anna Visto to the sword early, and Anna Visto just came out too good, super strong to the line, was a short price favourite. Ex-leader, eye-catching Michael missed the start and powered home for a good third.
Yeah, really good. And you mentioned this horse could potentially end up going to a Coolmore, so not the Coolmore down the straight for the 3-year-olds, obviously the Coolmore for the mares in Melbourne. I wouldn't be surprised if Levante ended up there. I wouldn't be surprised if even La Creek potentially ended up heading that sort of way. Just on Melbourne, by the way, Legato heads to the Australian Guineas in 2 weeks. She trialled really well at Cambridge on the synthetic. Not a strong field. Unfortunately, Even Chance was in that trial and broke down really badly. So that was really sad for their team. Our condolences to them. But Legato, really good in her trial, and she heads to the Australian Guineas, as we told people last week. Mike McD to do the riding there. Probably up against Jacquino. Yeah.
Watch with interest. The other, Rose Hill is where we get to next. The Hobartville is often a springboard for the autumn 3-year-olds, and Osipenko's New Zealand bred features in this next one as the winner. Also look out for Pierre, who finishes in 8th.
Just in front of Aft Cabin, Zoo Tiger trying to hold Osipenko in. 2 lengths away to Machelate. Pear trying to pick up on the rails. Down to the 300 and Clark said go on Aft Cabin. Just in front of Zoo Tiger. Osipenko's taking the inside run. It's game on now at the 200. Zoo Tiger got to Aft Cabin. Osipenko the inside. Machelate wide out. Zoo Tiger and Osipenko nose and nose to the wire. Osipenko bobbed and got there. Great finish in the Hobartville. Osipenko and nose to Zoo Tiger and Machelate.
Looks like he's got a lot of promise. Osipenko bought for $160,000 by Guy Mulcaster at the Karaka. Sales gets up and takes out to the Hobartville team. Think a lot of this horse. What did you make of Pierre in this Hobartville?
That's the second time he's been slow out of the gates. I think they need to warm him up a bit better behind the gates. We saw Opie do it with Imperatriz at Tarapa. Keep his mind on the job. You can't have him just dicking around. There's no point going to Australia and jumping and being slow. I think he needs 2,000 metres now. I think he's ready for 2,000 metres or up in distance, maybe 1,600 progressing to 2,000. But on that, I think he also needs the shades on. I think he's just having a lend of them. I think he's a family pet, and at the moment he's mucking around. And I think if they wake him up a little bit, they'll get a better version of the horse, because there's no point spending 20 or 30 grand and going over there and mucking around. So he needs to get his A and G. Spoke to Sam Weatherly, he said we think he'll be better up in distance, so I guess we'll find out.
Yep, and that run will have certainly tightened him up. That was Pierre in the Hobartville. Wanted to touch on the All-Star Mile voting. That closes on the 26th of February, and if you vote, you go in with a chance to win $250,000. All you've got to do is vote, costs nothing, and vote for your favourite contender to be in with a chance to win that money. Whilst there isn't a New Zealand horse, there's a number of Kiwi breds. I'm thunderstruck, I wish I win. Mr Brightside, all New Zealand bred. So jump to allstarmile.com.au to be involved.
And you can still vote for them. You can still vote for
Absolutely.
Aegon and obviously La Creek. Or I'm not sure she'll be going, but I think one of the problems is the novelty's worn off with the All-Star Mile. It's a really cool race. It's an awesome concept, and you can win, as you said, $250,000.
Just for voting.
Just for voting, but it's sort of getting lost in the fog of all these other amazing races on at the moment. So they've changed the timing of it this year. Vote, doesn't cost you anything, and you might win $250,000, but make sure you vote for a Kiwi, because they're not on that page, and they probably deserve to be on that page, because there's a few horses there who aren't as good as La Creek and definitely not as good as Aegon.
We're going to get to a break on Wayne, and on the back of that, we give you more info around a relief fund.
We hit the sidewalk, small talk about nights spent before. Call out, no one seems alive. Breakdown, new doors, who's inside? My mind, let loose, calm yourself. Setbacks, set up, set aside. Upset, change.
Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors. We've heard a number of times on the show today about Cyclone Gabrielle and the effects that it's had on the community on the East Coast. Roger James has been instrumental in working through a plan of action to raise some money for the victims. Brennan and Joe Lindsay have also jumped on board.
Roger, like everybody, you've been touched by the tragedy around the country, particularly on the East Coast in the last week. You've done something about it, and you've started 2 separate fund streams to help people. First of all, let's talk about what we're going to see on Gavel House Plus on Wednesday night at this stage with Room to Move.
Yeah, Mick, I had 7 hours in the car yesterday going to and from Taranaki, and thought about it, and wondered how we could do something. I phoned Robert, and then we, process of about 5 phone calls. We've ended up getting a lot of support from various people. Tony Ryder from Milan Park, who's also Pack and Save, has volunteered a truck and a driver that takes 15 pallets of essential groceries, and our plan is to fill that truck. Since then, with ideas coming from various people, in limited time this morning, we've approached several stud owners. They've all been incredibly generous. Andrew Seabrook has agreed to put on a online auction for Gabrielle House, probably on Wednesday night, for services. And at this stage we have got 4, maybe 6 thoroughbred services, and 2 from the trotting industry from both Woodside and Alabar. So it's great to see them coming on board as well. So look, I'm really keen to fill that truck, and if we get too much, I'd be keen to fill 2.
Okay, so the stallion auctions, if anybody's listening to this or watching this, they can still donate a stallion auction. We can put it online on Wednesday night via Gabrielle House. The money will go to the front lines of helping people, predominantly on the east coast of New Zealand. And also you're suggesting that your fellow trainers, owners, jockeys, anybody who can and has a bit of luck over the next couple of days can also contribute.
Absolutely. I've been speaking with various people in the Bay. People that have been affected are the people that instigated my doing this, but since then trying to set up a distribution point, and I've got a very good contact, and as we know, everything changes day by day. We definitely want to get it to frontline people, and it'll probably be Thursday, Friday before it gets there. Yes, I'm probably going to do a lot of cold calling tomorrow, but we've seeded the fund, and we would like to think that our fellow trainers could help contribute to it. Not only trainers, but jockeys, punters if they've had a good day, owners, breeders, anybody in our industry. We've got to get behind this, and as I say, hopefully fill 2 trucks. But there's bank account being set up on Monday morning with my accountant, and he is administering that, and hopefully we end up with a nice nest egg that we can spend on essential items from groceries.
And we're going to be working, or you are going to be working with the Red Cross to make sure they are going where they are needed.
Absolutely. I was very adamant that it wasn't to go to people that were in hardship before the floods, but it was very definitely had to go to flood victims, and that came through very easily. The Red Cross woman was excellent, and she knows where we're coming from.
Roger, if somebody's watching this on weigh-in on a Monday morning or a Monday afternoon and they want to contribute, not just to the bank account, but if they have a stud, they have a stallion, they want to contribute, who should they get hold of?
Primarily me or Robert, but if they want to join the auction, I think Monday is probably has to be cut-off point to maximise advertising for the auction. But as far as contributing to the amount, look, we'll be open for probably the whole week, and as I say, I hope we can get plenty and fill those trucks.
Well, Brendan and Joe, congratulations and thank you on behalf of all the people struggling in the country. You've decided to donate your share of the winning stake, most of the winning stake, from Aquacade's Avondale Cup to Racing's Relief Fund for everybody affected by Cyclone Gabrielle.
Oh, absolutely. And Roger James rang me this morning and said that he was trying to put something together. And I actually said to Roger, I said, oh, maybe Joe and I could just give the winning stake. And he said, what does that mean? You want me to pull my 2 horses up in the race? So we didn't obviously say anything before, but, we're here on a beautiful Auckland day enjoying success with the mare that we bred, and some folk have no clothes, they've got no house, they've got no crops, they've got no car, they've got no... So if that helps in some ways, we'll just be lucky to be able to be in the position to put something together.
It will help, obviously, and Joe, it's hard to watch the footage on television, isn't it? Because it feels like sometimes you're watching a whole nother country and it's not that far away.
I know. I mean, it's just devastating what's happening to those people down there. And so whatever we can do to help, and it's minor to what they need down there right now, but we wanted to just do something for them down there, just to try and help in some way.
It's a wonderful gesture, and Roger James, as you mentioned, has sparked this inside the racing industry. People were going to be getting involved anyway, but it's nice to have a centralised idea around this, Brendan.
Oh, Roger's done a great job, and he's taken the initiative, and good on him. And you know, Karen Frentonella rang me about Riding for Disabled the other day, that all their horses drowned, and we've obviously putting our hand up to help them as well, because we're involved with Riding for Disabled. But can you imagine, you know, all those horses drowning, but all those little kids that rely on that? And there's just so many sad stories. This is a good story for us. We bred the mare, and she's won a Group 2, and we're having a lot of fun. But you know, it's minor to what's needed. But you know, we'll put our hand up, and hopefully others will follow.
Tragic stuff, isn't it? And our thoughts are with all the victims of Cyclone Gabrielle, and a big thank you to Brendan and Joe, and of course Roger James, for the efforts of what they're doing. And Michael, it's not just them, obviously a number of people are working hard behind the scenes to do a number of things, but a big shout out to them for making the effort to donate.
Yeah, well, New Zealand Thoroughbred Breeders and David Smith are also doing something, which is fantastic. Te Akau have gone to their very big ownership base, and they've raised about 40,000 already. There's a stallion auction available on Wednesday night. So if you've got a mare, bid away. Or if you own a stallion, it's not too late to get hold of Roger James or Andrew Seabrook at NZB and Gavel House and say, we want to be part of this. And I know it's not my money to spend, and I'm not telling you have to do it, because obviously we can't tell you that. But these are people who live in our country, and it feels like it's another country, because it's so horrific. But there's a bank account number there. Screenshot that, pause it. If you had a win on the weekend, or you have any spare money, I know not everybody does.
And I think it's, however big or small, it doesn't matter, it all contributes.
And they're going to fill some trucks, and they're going to drive them to Hawke's Bay and give that food and blankets to people who need it, who are people who one day might be helping you out. And Roger, congratulations on banding people together, to Te Akau and to David Smith and the Thoroughbred Breeders, for everybody who's getting involved in this. But we're part of their community, they're part of our community. And well done to Brendan and Joe. That's a huge, huge amount of money, about $68,000. So if you own a stud, if you own horses, if you have some spare money, please try and contribute, because this isn't some other thing in another place. These are our people, and I'm glad that Roger and other people are trying to help them out.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's show on Weigh In. We'll be back next week to review Group 1 racing. We look forward to seeing you then.